Hey y'all, it's Sarah. So welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, welcome to my channel. So as you can tell by the title of this video is going to be about losing two of my friends to an overdose. And today is August 31st, and August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. And I already put kind of a warning in the introduction, and I just want to kind of start off with saying this video will be heavier, and it will be talking about, my journey with grief, losing two special people in my life to an overdose. And it may not be suited for everyone, and I just don't want to trigger anybody or upset anybody. But I just wanted to start that. But I also want to bring awareness and share some of my story in this, what's happened in my life. And I will be starting another playlist called Life Experiences. So this video will be there, and I'm sure, I know as time goes along, I'll add more videos to this playlist. So today, I want to honor two people who are no longer here, and their names are Gary and Brian. And losing these two people were different journeys of grief, sadness, mourning, trying to process. And I'm going to start off with talking about Gary, because I don't have as much to talk about and say with him as I do Brian, simply because Brian was a big part of my life, especially growing up. So Gary, I met him in some unusual, different circumstances back in roughly 2015, and we had crossed paths in life when I was in a really low place of my life, and he was somebody that impacted and, changed my life. He was somebody that had struggles. He had been through a lot of stuff in his life. He had a kid, and he seen me at some of my lowest points of life, and he was never judgmental. He was there. He was supportive to the best of his ability. And he had struggled with addiction for some quite time. I'm not for sure exactly all the details of that, but I'll just kind of leave that at that. But he was trying to get his life straightened around, and I think for Gary it was kind of a mixture of, trying to get better and trying to stay clean, and then kind of wanting to go back and forth. And he was in and out of my life for about a year, so about 2015 of March to about February of 2016. February of 2016 was actually the last time that I saw Gary. And we hadn't seen each other in some time or really talked to each other. But he seemed to be doing okay and was doing well. And it was about July of 2016 I had found out through a nurse that he had unfortunately passed away. And that was about April of 2016, I believe. It was about 2 months after I seen him last, and it was a great amount of shock, because I really thought she was lying, and I kind of hoped that she was lying at the same time. Denial, it was like, no, that didn't really happen. And after, going online and finding his obituary, that's when it really kind of became real to me, and it was this shock. And I still feel shock even sitting here talking to you all about it, 6 years later here in 2022. And it's still weird, and I really miss him a lot. I know he was somebody that I've really been through it, and he was awesome, and I really miss him a lot, and I've never forgot him, and I never will. And so that's a little bit talking about Gary. So now we're going to talk about Brian. And Brian was a very unique individual. He was special. He was funny. And when I say special, he was just one of a kind. He really was. And I feel really blessed to be able to say that I knew him. And it still stings. He passed away Halloween of 2021, and to kind of tell you a little bit about Brian. Brian and I grew up together. He had an older sister that's about my age, and we grew up best friends, and he was best friends with my brother, my younger brother, and then they had a little sister, and we were all just like kind of this big group of kids. You know, that was a couple of us, and then, you know, some other neighborhood kids. We all got together, and, you know, we hung out, we did stuff. Was things always perfect? Definitely not, but the good memories outweigh the bad memories. And Brian was one of the funniest people that I have known, and he was bold, he was funny, he just was just all around a really great guy. And I hadn't seen him in some years, just due to changes in life and just circumstances, and I hadn't talked to him in the last few years, and about the last few months of his life, I was able to see him on social media, you know, off and on interactions. And when Brian passed away, it was a shock. You know, you go through the shock phase, and it was very hard. It was like, kind of like, it felt like in life everything was okay, and then it just wasn't. And for me, I remember seeing on social media late Saturday night, October 30th, that you know, things weren't going well, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I remember praying for a miracle, praying for something to change, you know, for there to be a miracle pretty much. And we had went to bed, and I remember getting up the next morning and seeing online that unfortunately he didn't make it. He had passed away a few hours after, and I didn't know what to do with that, because it felt like it wasn't real, it wasn't happening. And I remember going to church that morning. I didn't want to go, but I thought, okay, well, I'll go. It'll help kind of, you know, these emotions process. And I was really like to just cry. For me, I like to cry in private, you know, grieve and mourn in private, but that wasn't the case this time. You know, Brett Michaels wrote a song called Something to Believe In, and he talked about the passing of one of his dear friends, and he said in this song, I tried so hard not to break down and cry as the tears rolled down my face. And that's exactly how it was. Nobody said anything to me. I just started crying. And you know, some people had asked, you know, what was wrong, and I said, you know, I just lost somebody dear to my heart, you know, a few hours ago. It hadn't even been 12 hours yet when I went to church, and I was more stressed out about other things that wasn't even like worth stressing out. It was pointless stuff. I wasn't taking in the fact that, you know, I just lost somebody really that impacted my life and touched my life. Well, I'll never forget Brian. Brian is somebody that I'm just so glad that him and his sisters and his mom are, and you know, and him not being here are part of my life. And his mom is one of the funniest people that I know, and I don't say that lightly. She is seriously one of the funniest people that I know. And I'm really glad and thankful for all the memories that we had as kids, because they're good memories that you won't ever forget. And I thank God for digital cameras, you know, pictures, because it's hard when you grieve somebody. That feels like that's all you have left of them is pictures and memories and videos. And I thank God we have the pictures. So my 10th grade year, Winterfest, and he was a grade behind me, so he was a freshman, and we went together as like friends. And I tell you, and I'm not just saying this to say it, that was the best dance probably of my whole high school career, with the exception of my senior year prom, I could say. But I tell you what, that was the best dance. Like, I think they played 2 slow songs the whole night, and the rest of them were fast. You know, I was thinking about the time when we had went to a local pizza place afterwards. We had a lot of fun then, and I'm just really glad Brian got to go with me, and we got to go to dance together, and it was a lot of fun. And it was, I really miss him. I miss him so much. And you know, going through this process of grief, and you know, I feel like it honestly will look different for everybody. And, grief has been very different compared to Gary, to Brian. Brian was in my life a lot longer than Gary was. I spent a lot of time with Brian and his family. And, I think it's important that people know it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel the emotions, let them out. I can't stress it enough of how important it is to let the emotions out, because if you don't, the saying, if you don't deal with it now, it will deal with you later, is true. It's just the honest God's truth. And my journey with grief on these two deaths have been eventually healthy. They weren't very healthy in the beginning, because all I wanted to do was just, cry and be away from everybody. But roughly about 3 weeks after Brian had passed away, I was at a home church and was able to begin to find some peace. And I don't know, I know a lot of people say that, with death, there's certain parts of losing somebody you'll never get over. And I can't say yes or no on that, but I really feel like that it's just different for everybody. And sometimes I know in the beginning it just felt like I was never going to get over either one of these deaths, and it still hurts. I still miss them, especially Brian. I have that pain in my heart still, that when I'm talking about him. But I want to talk about him because he was an amazing person. He was a part of my life, and I'm glad that he was. And I can't stress enough to talk to somebody if you're grieving, if you're hurting. And, I just want to stress too, if you see somebody that's mourning, and it doesn't even have to mean that they lost somebody to an overdose or an OD or whatever, let them grieve, let them cry, let them talk it out. I feel like that people are shamed because they grieve and how they grieve. If it's healthy, that's important, but people do not need to feel any sort of shame, guilt for how somebody died. And I feel like that there is I think like a stigma, maybe is the word, on people who have lost somebody to an OD or whatever, because there's automatically all these thoughts and all these comments and all these, this, that, and something else, but nobody's taking into the fact that somebody just lost somebody, and that's got to change. And we need to talk about this, and especially me being a believer and a Christian, I feel like that this should be talked about more. Journey with grief after losing somebody to a traumatic event like this. Death in itself is hard. Death is not easy at all. And I feel like, in my opinion, when somebody could be, like if there's a terminal illness, it's hard. And it's hard, and it could possibly be coming, but even when you don't necessarily see it coming, or it's kind of just out of nowhere, it's hard. It's really seriously hard. And I just can't stress how important people need to feel safe to talk and to express their grief, express their concerns. And if you're struggling, please know that you are not alone, that your life is worth it, and that you are valuable. And please reach out to somebody for help. If you have to go to the emergency room to get help, or go to the police station, whatever you may need to do to get help, know that resources is out there, and you're not alone, and that your life is worth it. And if I could talk to Brian and Gary today, something that I would love to say to them is that I love them, I miss them, and thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for being a part of my journey. And I have peace and hope that I know that they're okay. And with Brian, him being a part of my life longer, I don't want to share a lot of details, for privacy, but I firmly believe that, with Brian, that I'll see him again. And I believe that with Gary too. And I'm not here to get religious on y'all, but I'm just saying, I really miss Brian. I really miss Gary. But they were a part of my life, and I'm not going to be ashamed to talk about anybody that has passed away, no matter how they passed away. And So that is actually all I have for today's video. So thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I upload videos every Wednesday morning unless noted otherwise. So again, if you are struggling, please reach out. Your life is worth it. Be here tomorrow and every day after that. I love you all, and I will see you next week in my next new video. Bye guys.